Have you ever seen a before and after photo where someone looks completely different but swears she weighs the same? I mean, she's gotta be a skinny little liar, right? Because there is no way this person weighs the same as that one. Even though this seems like the biggest fitness lie ever told, transformations like this are more common than you think. And even though this is the kind of transformation most of us want, the average dieter gives up as soon as her scale refuses to budge, even though this is what's really going on. So in this video, I'll show you 5 clear signs that you're losing fat while building muscle, which is especially helpful when that jerk of a scale refuses to cooperate. But how will you know if your plan is working when you can't get your scale to move? Even though I step on that jerk every single morning in order to average out my weekly weight, I never trust what that lying has to say. And here's why. When you look at this pile of socks compared to this shoe that a Yeti apparently left in my house, which one do you think weighs more? Since the sock pile takes up 3 times the space, that would lead most people to pick the socks. But once we weigh the socks and compare it to the Yeti shoe, we can see they both weigh exactly the same. Even though they're the same weight, the socks take up way more space. Now, you may be wondering, what do a pile of socks and a Yeti shoe have to do with burning fat? When most women set out to lose weight, they focus every last effort on burning as many calories as possible with cardio. Then they double down on this low-calorie strategy by eating as little as they can to get that jerk on their bathroom floor to budge. The second that thing stalls, they throw out their entire plan, binge on every comfort food that they restricted, and vow to start again on Monday with another plan that they're doing way too much for way too little results. But once you understand that you're getting rid of this fluffy fat that takes up way more space, like this pile of socks, while adding lean muscle that weighs the same but takes up less space, like the Yeti shoe, then you'll finally realize that beast on the bathroom floor not moving isn't necessarily a bad thing. Because that's exactly what happens when you work smarter with a sustainable fat loss plan instead of forcing another strict diet that you'll give up on a few weeks in. Once you commit to strength training 3 to 4 days each week while eating more protein in a moderate calorie deficit, that's when you reach the body recomp phase of weight loss, which is often called the Goldilocks phase since it's exactly where you want to be. Body recomp is when you slowly build lean muscle while losing fat at the same time. While the changes that come with body recomp are nothing short of spectacular, relying solely on the scale for results will make you want to pull out every last hair out of your head, because that thing probably won't move much for at least the first 3 to 6 weeks. In fact, it could even go up. That's because whenever you add strength training to your fat loss routine, your muscles store more glycogen, which is energy for your muscles. But this also means you're storing extra water weight, at least in the short term. Since your body breaks down muscle fibers whenever you lift, this causes inflammation inside of your muscles, which comes with even more water weight. When you have patience throughout all of the scale fluctuations those first few weeks, that's when things get good. Because as long as you trust the process, you'll start gaining muscle while losing fat. So even if your scale stays exactly the same those first 3 to 6 weeks, that doesn't mean that your plans isn't working. It could simply mean that you're losing this fluffy fat that leads to a more muffiny muffin top while adding muscle, which helps you build the lean body you've been chasing. When you continue to have patience, your scale will go down. This happens once you get rid of this short-term water weight and after losing those first few pounds of fat. But I get it. It's hard to just trust the process, even though it seems like everyone's screaming at you to trust the process. So how can you figure out if your stubborn scale that won't budge is you actually losing fat while gaining muscle, or if you need to tweak your plan? Patience, Danielson. While yes, you do need patience, there is a more substantial way of knowing if you're moving in the right direction, which is tracking both your weight and your body fat percentage with one of these smart scales. While these scales only come with an 89% accuracy rating, having 89% accuracy is better than starting from scratch every few weeks when you have nothing else to go on besides your weight. When you step onto a body fat scale, not only does your weight pop up, but it also sends your body fat percentage to an app. You can use this information to track both your weight and your body fat to see if you're getting leaner. As an example, even if my scale pops up with the same weight average of 160 pounds for the next 2 weeks, if my body fat percent moves from 26 to 25% during that time, that shows I got leaner by 1.6 pounds, even though my scale didn't move an ounce. While losing only 1.6 pounds of fat in 2 weeks seems slow, that's the best way to build a sustainable plan. In fact, slow and steady is the exact path I followed to reach my 50-pound weight loss goal. And it's finally easy to maintain a healthy weight since this is the same plan that allows me to eat more while exercising less, all while living in a body I love. But if you don't have a fancy smart scale and you have no plans of buying yet another contraption that could only break your fragile dieting heart, you might be wondering if there's another way to know if you're burning fat and not muscle. The good news is, yes, there are plenty of other ways to tell if you're getting leaner. The bad news? You have heard this advice 10 billion times before, but you obviously refuse to listen since you're still putting all of your trust into a device that sits next to where you poop. Gaining muscle while losing fat is a lot like wearing this puffy coat versus the sleek jacket you throw on once all of the snow melts. Even though you weigh the same whether you're all buttoned up or if you're flaunting what you've got in this sleeker jacket, you look like a completely different person. Whenever you strength train in a moderate calorie deficit, over time, your body peels off that top fluffy layer. That sets your body up to reveal the sleeker layer you've spent time building underneath. So even if your toilet neighbor won't budge, you'll know that you're losing fat when you start paying attention to all of the non-scale victories you hear health coaches blabbering on about. Some of these victories include looser fitting clothing, your measurements going down every few weeks, and small changes in monthly progress photos. Sure, these small changes may not evoke the same happy dance you do every time you drop a pound, but these changes are much more deserving of at least a little wiggle, since these are the changes that signify fat loss. Even if you only lost an inch around your waist last month, or you're only down 1 pant size, or you only notice that pocket of fat missing right there in monthly photos, quit being such a Debbie Downer and realize these are the exact changes you want. Even if your scale doesn't move an ounce, these small changes are all big signs of a fat loss plan that's working. Once you realize that you need patience if you ever want to reach your goals, then you'll finally understand that small changes, like buttoning up jeans that you couldn't fit into last month, is a really big deal. But you can also use other methods like measuring around your waist once each month. Even if you only lose an inch, that loss is pure body fat making 1 inch excellent progress. It's also a good idea to take monthly progress photos in the same outfit every month to look for small changes. When you do this, be sure to use tight-fitting clothing like a sports bra and leggings so you can see the changes. But even though small changes are a big deal, how can you really know that you're getting results when all you can see is all of the fat that you still haven't lost? Because as dieters, we have all trained ourselves to dwell on the negatives, even while all of these positives keep smacking us right upside the face. Even though the fad diets that continue to fail you may seem as comfortable as your favorite pair of flip-flops, these plans are just as flimsy and will never support the long-term results that you want. Sure, it's easy enough to slip on, but wearing flip-flops all day, every day leads to sore and achy feet. When you choose a stronger shoe that's more supportive, even though it's harder to put on, the sturdier shoe makes it easier to get through the day. The same thing happens when you focus on plans that build a sturdier body instead of focusing on flimsy methods that only break you down. Even though putting more effort into strength training isn't as comfortable as the low-calorie plans you've relied on so far, adding a few reps or lifting a little heavier each week means you're building muscle. As long as you keep getting stronger week after week, that's a sign that you're getting rid of unwanted fat while building muscle, even if your scale never moves. Even though traditional diet thought is that all weight gain is bad weight, nothing could be further from the truth, especially since gaining weight whenever you build muscle is actually key to burning fat, since it speeds up your metabolism, which is the exact reason that improved performance in workouts, like lifting heavier weights, having more endurance, or even improving functional fitness, all suggest muscle growth and fat loss, which leads nicely into the next way you can tell if you're burning fat while building muscle. If you come from a frigid climate like me, please, Chicago isn't that cold. Whenever it's time to step outside, you're probably bundled up with a base layer of leggings and a thermal, topped with sweats, followed by a puffy jacket, hat, and gloves. Even though you can hardly tell there's a person under all of those layers, you finally see a human emerge once she gets inside and begins stripping off the layers. Well, not all of the layers. I mean, I haven't resorted to OnlyFans yet. Just like you can't see my shape until I remove the oversized layers, the same thing goes for the next sign that you're burning fat and not muscle. Even though your scale be scaling, doing what it does to make you second guess every choice you make, once you start peeling off the layers of fat while sticking to your strength training plan, that's when you'll notice small bits of muscle definition poking through. The longer you continue training in a moderate calorie deficit, the more definition you start to see, which is another great sign that you're losing fat while building muscle. That's because any emerging muscle tone signals fat loss while at least maintaining, but hopefully gaining, lean muscle. And even though those are 4 solid ways to know that you're burning fat and not muscle, there is one final way that shows me that I'm in the right calorie deficit while leaning out. But this one's controversial since some fitfluencers say one thing while others tell a completely different story entirely. Not that that's anything new to the let's confuse everyone by constantly changing our minds fitness industry. But hear me out. Recomping your body is just like buttoning up this lovely compression garment I was told to wear after my recent surgery. Settle down, I already told you this isn't OnlyFans. Even though your body is becoming more compact, that snug fit requires constant adjustments, which is just like your hunger cues during a body recomp phase. But even though some fitfluencers say that you'll feel fuller while losing fat and gaining muscle, others solidly agree that hunger during this phase is relentless. My personal experience with these conflicting messages is both are correct. Well, that's not confusing at all. How hungry you feel while recomping your body stems from both where you started as well as how hard you're working to get results. If you're someone who previously lived on heavily processed foods, then switching to a real food plan will help you feel fuller on less calories. That's because real food has the nutrient your body needs to thrive, especially when you eat plenty of high quality meats and veggies. This leads most people to experience fewer cravings while boosting energy levels on any whole food diet. But since you've also added strength training to your routine at least 2 to 4 days per week, this could lead to some hunger, especially at night. That's because you're building muscle, and muscle is a metabolically expensive tissue, which means your body requires more calories to keep it around. In fact, lifting heavy to build more muscle is exactly how I get away with eating between 2,000 to 2,400 calories a day, even while leaning out. Whereas with previous diets, I'd be lucky to maintain my weight on 1,500 calories a day. So while I do stay fuller on low-calorie, high-protein meals during the day, I know I'm burning fat when I feel at least a little bit of hunger before bed. But the trick to not losing muscle while burning fat is to never go to bed feeling ravenously hungry, especially since that kind of hunger will disrupt your sleep, and high-quality sleep is absolutely required for results. Of course, there is more to a fat loss plan that gets results than building muscle. That's why I made this video, which shows you the exact routine I followed to lose 50 pounds in my 40s, even when nothing else worked. Since that routine worked so well, it's the same routine that I still follow to easily keep the weight off.